Time now for Morning Rounds, our look at some of the latest medical news. This week, a form of cancer caused by a virus. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 31,000 men and women are diagnosed every year with cancer attributed to the human papillomavirus, commonly referred to as HPV.
We're joined by CBS News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Jon LaPook, who took a closer look at HPV and how it can be avoided. Good morning, Jon.
Good morning, Anthony. Public health experts are sounding the alarm about a rise in head and neck cancers in men caused by the HPV virus. For one man in particular, getting the word out has become a personal crusade. Michael Becker has spent a lifetime in the business of diagnosis and treatment of cancer. That's why a glance in the mirror 2 years ago frightened him.
I saw this huge lump on the right side of my neck.
You're somebody who has worked with cancer, and now you're feeling this hard lump.
And so I think it's cancer.
It was advanced throat cancer from human papillomavirus, or HPV. The same virus causes cervical cancer, but unlike cervical cancer, there's no routine screening test for cancer of the throat. A recent study found about 7 million adult males have high-risk strains of oral HPV. Most infections clear, but about 13,000 a year are linked to cancer of the back of the throat. There is a vaccine to prevent HPV, usually given at age 11 or 12, yet only 43% of teens complete the recommended doses. When you see how low the uptake is, what's your reaction?
Anger. Anger. We have a moral obligation to wipe HPV off the face of the planet.
Becker has detailed his experience in a blog and a memoir. His wife, Lori.
I've had different people reach out to me saying, I was on the fence about my son. And then after looking into it, they're like, thank you.
Last year, Becker was in an immunotherapy clinical trial at the National Institutes of Health, but it failed. He's finishing up a chemotherapy cycle.
All right, everybody look here.
His 9th and final visit is next week. Tumors have shrunk, but may be showing signs of resistance to this treatment.
I know that what time I have left really needs to be devoted to raising awareness of the fact that my condition could have been avoided.
Jon, you talk about the vaccination in the piece, and obviously there's room for improvement here when you've only got 43% of teens who complete the vaccination. What kind of outreach is being done? Is it enough on this?
Well, it's not enough, but there's a lot of it. The Centers for Disease Control has an outreach, and the American Academy of Pediatrics has a huge one, and they're targeting the pediatricians. They're trying to say to them, look, you got to think about it. You got to make it routine. You have to educate the parents, and you have to specifically address the questions that they have. One of the big questions that they point out is a lot of parents come and say, my kid's 11 or 12, why are you giving it at such a young age? They're not sexually active, and that's generally true. Here's the answer. The vaccine works better when given earlier. It elicits a better immunologic response. And also, you want to get them before they're sexually active.
There's the doctor aspect of this, but when you look at the numbers, this needs to be a bigger part of the public health conversation.
It really does, Alex. The numbers are kind of amazing. 14 million new infections a year. And now, before people panic, 90% of those go away on their own. But the 10% can be persistent, and if it's a certain strain, then potentially that could be the kind that causes cancer. Now, there's some research that definitely has to be done. For one thing, there are studies going on. I spoke to Dr. Anna Giuliani, who's doing some of the work on this. She said, you have to prove, and these studies are going on, that giving the vaccine that protects against certain strains that cause head and neck cancer, that actually prevents the head and neck cancer. So you're preventing the viral infection. It makes sense that it would prevent the cancer. They have to prove that. And the other thing is they need a diagnostic test. We talked about the pap smear for women. You need something that can pick this up early, because earlier diagnosis, earlier treatment, better results.
All right, Dr. Jon LaPook, thanks for coming in this morning, Jon. Great
to
see
you,
you.
Doc.
Pleasure to be here.